So Richard is log maxing and secret chatting on Darken Rahl's feeding horn pilled Underworld celled.
Oh my god.
Right?
Yeah.
Welcome back to Seeker and Confessor, a Sword of Truth podcast. I'm your host, Frank.
And I'm Lauren.
And today we're doing chapter 24 of Wizard's First Rule by Terry Goodkind.
Yeah. You did it.
Yeah, I did it right.
Frank's intros.
Whew.
We do them like 20 times.
So many cuts.
He adds the most like extraneous
episode count. I don't know. I just can't get it all out, and then I start fumbling.
Well, we made it though.
We made it.
That one was good. Today is chapter 24.
Boy, is it.
And today we have to start with a major content warning, trigger warning, life warning, personal from my heart to your heart warning.
Please.
Okay. Well, if you read the book,
then you know.
I mean, you've been here, so I guess it's okay, unless you're like, oh, right, that part. I don't really want to talk about it again.
Yeah, this is one of, I'm sure, a couple of chapters that will warrant this extra trigger warning, content warning. Please, if XYZ bothers you, nope out right now. But
yeah, and if you haven't read the book and you're watching this for some reason just to like get the gist, there's going to be content in this chapter that is it like there's tons of books with like bad content where you're like, oh, there's the R word happening, there's the M word, murder. I don't know.
Yes.
Can you say that? I don't know.
Well, that happens.
This isn't monetized.
Too,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And so, like content warning in general for these things, but this I do feel like it's like another step.
Yes.
Right? Like it's another step. So if you're sensitive to SA, I mean, if you're sensitive to SA, don't watch or read any of this. But if you,
I don't know how you got so far, but
it hasn't really
now's
happened
the time
yet.
To maybe bounce out.
Go.
Yeah.
But yeah, especially involving children. Mm-hmm. Anything bad happening to children. If you really don't like that, you might want to skip it.
Anything bad happening to children,
don't do this.
This chapter is where everything bad happens to child. So
yeah. So I mean, it's fine. Even if you want to skip it next episode, I think we can do a like.
Next episode's like a bomb of fresh air.
Well, sure, but I'm saying next episode we can like summarize what this was about. If you want to keep going,
we could do a chapter 24 quick.
We'll do like a quick summary that's not as disturbing as like going into it the way we are going to do now. Yeah, I'm not excited to talk about it. I've been kind of angry when I like read the chapter, and then when I'm writing my notes, I'm like, I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like even just describing what happens is like fun. Wow. Cool.
Yeah.
Glad we got to do that.
But I mean, the point is to explore the story, and it's part of the story. So
yeah, it is. Here we go.
Yeah, here we go. Apologies in advance. So we are back with Darken Rahl and Carl. Carl is still
in the sand,
buried in the sand. I'm still taking issue with it. It's fine.
Everybody. I take a lot of issue with a lot of things in this chapter. Not even the bad content stuff.
Really?
Yeah, but
I have some maybe.
Yeah, mostly regarding that. But
okay. Yeah, I agree. We're basically like exactly where we left them off. It doesn't have the feel of like there having been a lot of progress or movement. I know there literally has, and we're told that.
Yes.
But there's something weird about like coming back and be like, they're right where we left them.
Yeah, and things are exactly where they need to be.
Yeah, so whatever.
Yeah.
Carl's buried. Darken Rahl's sitting in his little grassy spot in front of him. They're talking.
Yeah.
And Carl has clearly at this point been thoroughly brainwashed by Darken Rahl.
Just mind whipped. The boy has got nothing left.
But like, I think like the manner in which he has manipulated him is believable.
Sure. Yes.
Meaning like the logic of it, the mental aspect.
That's believable.
Yeah, right.
My problems come with should that matter, but we'll get there later.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
The first line is a quote by Carl, and it says, "I hate my mother." Interesting place to start.
It's very like
interesting place to start.
Very like Darken Rahl is like Freud or something.
I literally wrote Freud be like.
Wow. Okay.
And also maybe Terry's like Freud. Both. No, listen. So.
I don't know that because like.
Rahl and Richard both don't have mothers in the picture.
Yeah. True.
Carl's going through it right now. He'd be going through it. And it's just interesting. We're always getting this. This mother's always out of sight, right?
Right.
The only mother that we have is the mother confessor.
The best mother of all.
Yeah, she's mothering all over the Midlands, but
in
Dahara they have no mother right now.
They have no mother. And
interesting, yeah. So Darken Rahl is weaveling into Carl's mind and has struck the cerebellum here. And us starting with "I hate my mother" is kind of the beginning of the end for Carl.
Right, so it's kind of interesting because you could look at it and be like, are we making some sort of commentary about like mothers in the sense of like being like, yeah, mothers are always the problem, given that they seem to be so absent. But then you're like, Darken Rahl's using that where you're right, like that's the point where Carl is lost. So it's sort of like hating your mother seems like it has a bad end result also.
I think it's more that. And I think at its core, respecting your mother kind of maintains this like protection of youth. And when you cast her aside, like Darken Rahl did, you get bad candy from that garden. You know what I mean? Like you get the bad apples.
Bad candy from that garden.
New quote.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think life is more complicated than that.
No.
Right, but like for the purposes of a story, like thematically, that's okay. And yeah, Carl's on. He's like just disowning the fam. You can't blame him.
Even Tinker.
Rough.
Carl's dog is like, I don't even know him anymore. That cur.
Well, you find out that the blueberry oatmeal gruel he's been eating has been keeping him awake.
Yeah, it's like
for like hours and hours.
It's the Panera lemonade gruel.
It's dark, just like this chapter. Well, yeah, so it's been keeping him awake, and that, I think, contributes believably to the...
Yeah, oh yeah,
You're
100%.
like, yeah. If I was like,
He hasn't slept in days and days and days.
And the dictator of my country kept me awake.
With magic is whispering into my... It's like Satan doing CIA torture tactics to you. And it's like, do you think you get mind controlled? Yeah, I don't know, probably.
Think so. So, like, yeah, anything that Carl... thinks, believes, feels at this point, not his fault. So we're not laying any blame.
Carl's out. As far as I'm concerned, Carl is just not to be blamed any longer for anything.
Yeah, so then we take this detour mentally. We're in Darken Rahl's head, and he's reflecting on the evening before.
Yeah.
I just have some stuff about this I want to mention.
Okay. Go ahead.
All right.
Yep.
Do you have things about it?
I'm sure, but
it's just introduced weirdly. It's like, and last night I took that girl to bed, and you're like, what girl? I don't know
girl.
Who are we talking about?
Curly's wife.
Why is it Curly's wife? Thematically,
no name, no origin. Just
well, yeah, but I guess that's right. He's doing the
Curly's wife.
He's doing the Steinbeck of it all.
Of it all.
And so. Yeah, I don't know. It's just dropped in like, last night I took that girl to bed because I've been so like stressed. I needed to
I really needed some time off.
Kind of.
I just needed to like decompress a little. And she was so soft.
Yeah, he's like reflecting on how nice it was in a way that's like kind of relatable. You're like, yeah, okay. But then
Yeah, when you're 24/7 around the clock, bending a child's brain to your whim, that becomes difficult. Like that's hard on a dictator, and so you need to sometimes
get that girl,
get a girl of the night back up to your bed chambers.
And we don't know that she was a girl of the night.
She was a girl of that night.
Yeah. So, but there was a problem.
There was
that Darken's reflecting on, and it's been mentioned before that.
Of course, it has.
Girls are always laughing at his scars, and she did it too.
Yeah.
Okay, are we on the same page that he's making it up?
Absolutely.
Right? Like he's interpreting.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's supposed to be. I just don't think you're not supposed to believe him.
Really? I think you maybe at this point are supposed to.
And I'm probably misremembering, but I think at some point Kaylin probably sees these scars and like you just see how blatantly it's just not true.
Yeah, I'm just like, there's no way these girls are just cracking up at some scarring on his legs.
It's unbelievable and but it ties in with everything else.
I know he's overreacting. He's projecting insecurities onto other people, so he doesn't.
And honestly, just excusing his
desires,
mega sociopathic desires.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's my take. I'm like, yeah, these girls are not laughing at Darken Rahl.
But I don't think a girl could go in there and not be accused of laughing at Darken Rahl.
Jeez, it's like it's interesting because people are kind of like this.
Are kind of like what?
Like that, where they are just like everybody's laughing at me. These people are doing this to me, and like sometimes you're like, no, they're not.
100%.
Darken Rahl kills her because she laughed, and then he's just like reflecting on how great her bleeding was for him.
Yeah.
It's very like
it's going on the stack of all of the Darken Rahl be bad stack. It's
that
just like
part, like I mean, I'm not a fan, but like we weren't there for this scene, and it feels so like comically villainous or something in this Broadway that like it didn't. I wasn't like that upset.
So I wrote a thing, and I want to talk about it, and I want you to give me your opinion because I'm not entirely sure. This whole chapter is a weird mix of cartoon, like 90s cartoon Sunday special villainry and like true dark ritual, like
I know,
like devil shit.
Yeah, it kind of makes me uncomfortable.
It made me mad uncomfortable, and I'm kind of like, is that on me? Like, should I?
Oh my god.
What?
It's just you're so obsessed with what's happening out the window.
There's a man standing right outside.
He has a dog.
I can't see the dog from here, so he just showed up on the outside of the window and stood there.
He's just walking his dog.
Now I see the dog. That's a cute dog. Okay.
Well, oh my god. Anyway, why would that be like a you problem? What does that mean?
I'm like, is Terry going for something that like is just new?
I think is it effective?
That's my question.
All around, I don't know. Is it
realistic?
I don't think it's realistic. Like, I don't think so.
But like, could it exist in this form, and that's effective? Maybe
so far, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but this dude, like, I don't know. He's just so bad.
He is so bad.
It's giving like Skeletor, but like Skeletor then tells you how he loves to like strip the tendons off of like young women and make clothes out of it, and you're like, oh, I thought we were getting some fun He-Man shit, but now we're
that was the problem I was having originally, where I was like, I want to have fun with Darken Rahl, and I do sometimes, but I also can't.
Now you
so it's a weird feeling, because I guess those like 90 over the top cartoon villain types are kind of like I think I said this already. They're like there to allow you to have some fun.
Yes, agreed. Yeah.
And so it's frustrating as a reader, maybe, to like be like, oh, tempting, I want to go.
Yeah, is he like chastising?
I think probably.
Terry, goddamn it.
I don't know what to say.
Yeah,
or maybe he's not, or like he's being like, hey, reflect.
There's
reflect
not a single
on it.
Villain, I don't think, in this entire thing worth their salt that's not like a fucking like horror show though. Like there's not like
Jagang.
Jagang's like raping every woman he sees and making them rape each other.
Right, I guess
brains, like
it's not to say that those people couldn't exist.
No, I believe they
could.
Right,
because given I don't know. I go back and forth on this because, like, I really do believe that most, like, serial killer types that are, like, this level of, like, I'm dismembering people, I'm stealing heads and putting them in my freezer, they're not... We have this, like, fantasy myth in media that they're so competent and, like...
True.
Cool and can make all these grand plans and blah, blah, blah. I don't feel like they are. I feel like they're usually losers. I feel like they're usually like... hiding out in like some hoarder home and they like can't get their shit together worth anything. Like I don't know that both of those things, they're fun as characters, but like how often do they both exist in the same person? I don't know.
Yeah, right? I mean you're taking
I don't know, maybe.
It makes sense why it exists like it does in fiction.
Yeah.
But does it really ever happen like that?
Because it feels like people who are kind of at that Darken Rahl level of, like, political power. Yeah. They do tend to be, like, heartless in terms of, like, I don't care that all these soldiers are going to die.
That's true.
But they probably do dabble in weird shit.
Yeah, but
this is, like, really weird shit.
This is...
But maybe if they were like, hey, if you do this really weird shit, you get...
even more power.
You get magical underworld horse dragon. Maybe they would, right? I don't know. I don't know. It's a mix of so many things that I don't know how to...
Yeah, it's hard. You do have to suspend disbelief of the humanity of these people when you factor in extra human powers being granted because of their horrible actions. It does.
What you're willing to do.
It definitely does. And that, like in, the D&D mythos, you have liches and they're willing to like give up their humanity for like this extraordinary power and like longevity, and you're kind of like, all right, a person would do that, someone. And if you're like, you increasingly have to do more and more horrible things to keep getting more and more power, someone might do that. Griffith. But we oh my god, we gotta do Berserk at some point. We gotta do it. Yeah. But yeah.
But see, what's interesting is, like, Griffith feels really believable to me.
I agree.
So that's interesting. Yeah. Like, why am I, like, questioning Darken Rahl? But, like, when Griffith does it... I guess he doesn't do this. But when Griffith does... What?
A couple of reasons.
I don't know. When Griffith does it, I'm like, I buy it. Somebody would do this.
I mean, it could literally come down to the talent of Miura versus Terry.
Genius.
He is a genius. But also, like, if you lay it out on paper... between Griffith's introduction and his betrayal,
I guess I went on the whole journey.
We had years of content. That's true. You know what I mean? It's like if he wrote Darken Rahl as a good guy.
That is true. I guess when you do that journey, you are way more likely at the end to buy it.
That's the thing.
And we're getting like little snippets of it.
You got up real close with not only like your own self reading that book to Griffith and being like kind of seeing him as an admirable figure through the eyes of all of these other characters, that when he flipped, it was so much more horrific and believable. We just started with Darken Rahl being so bad.
He really was so bad right from the beginning. Yeah. I don't know. I feel conflicted about Darken Rahl at this point as a character. It's not like bad enough where I'm like, oh, this is so ridiculous, but I'm not totally bought in either. But I'm also like, he's kind of fun, but then I'm also like, fuck him. But then I'm also like, that's exactly how I'm supposed to feel, probably. Yeah. Darken reflects, oh, the girl laughed at my scar. I murdered her. Yep. And then he's telling Carl that, like, enemies are after him and the enemies of Dahara, and they want to kill Darken. And that's sort of the moment that Carl is like...
He pledges his undying loyalty.
Yeah, he's like, I want to help. I'll do anything to make sure you are good.
Let me stay. Let me defend you. If I died for you, that would be okay. That would be worth it.
Darken Rahl keeps, like, making sure, which is kind of interesting. Like, he keeps asking, like, are you sure, Carl? Are you 100% sure? And Carl says yes. He says, would you die for me, very explicitly, which I thought probably had something to do with, like, the spell. Absolutely, it felt like he had to get certain answers, like, definitively.
Well, it's his life in the balance, so I think Darken Rahl's not going to risk this.
Good point.
So here's my qualm with this whole thing, and I don't know how underworld magic works, obviously, but if the spell requires a soul to be committed to you unwaveringly, does not letting someone sleep and twisting their mind for days until they agree to do something that after a nap and some water probably they wouldn't no longer agree with, does that count?
Clearly it does.
It does count in here, but like does that feel right? Like, I don't know. I feel a little bit like...
Well, so it's interesting is I think you could take, like, when it comes to the Underworld, people take, like, two different tones.
Yeah.
Where either, like, it is kind of like in, say, like, Sandman, death and all of that is very, like, honorable and not representative of badness.
True.
It just is.
Okay.
It's, like, dark, but it's not, like...
It's not evil.
Morally evil.
Yeah.
And then other people sort of use death and the underworld and all of that as sort of this like tricky, Satan-y, hellish energy. And I feel like Terry's kind of doing that with it.
Yeah.
Which would mean that they're going to be more willing to like accept loopholes or like not care about that sort of thing, where I feel like a Sandman-esque version of the underworld would care. They'd be like, that doesn't count.
Yeah, but I'm wondering, like, did Terry think that checked out? Or did Terry think that Carl, after what is about to happen to him, feels still like, oh, I'm coming back. Like, I love Dark.
I think that might be true. Like, it would take a while to maybe, like,
Or maybe once, at the moment of death, you can't change your mind on things. Like, your soul's locked in, like...
Okay, well, first, I think it goes back to, like, the theme of, like, personal intention and belief.
It does.
Right? Yeah. Like, the same way Richard, when he goes to kill with the sword, he has to believe the person he's killing is bad. Whether or not it's true, irrelevant for the magic.
Yeah.
It's just his belief. So in that moment, he just needs to get Carl to personally, in that moment, believe that he wants these things so that the magic will function. Magic in here seems to function heavily upon your personal conviction in any given moment. Because, like, Richard could approach somebody and be like, I think they're bad, I'm gonna kill them with my sword. It could work. And then later he could be like, actually, I changed my mind, but it doesn't matter.
Because it already happened.
Exactly.
True. Okay.
Right?
That's fair. Yeah.
So I think it's about, like, honestly...
Within Terry's magic system, that's consistent.
Yeah, like, honestly, gaslighting people is, like, the ultimate superpower in this magic system.
And that's why it makes it even more deplorable that he's doing it.
Exactly.
Okay, all right.
That's my take.
That's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I buy that. I figured you'd be able to talk me through it, but I just felt a little weird about it. Dog laid on the tripod. So if we're in a different position because you're scrubbing around, that's why.
I don't know what just happened. Yeah. What I want to talk about is the Darken Rahl's, like, breath and physicality.
I wrote a lot of notes.
Yeah, me too. Throughout the whole thing, there's, like, a really big focus on how he's reacting physically to the whole event. It absolutely has, like, sexual undertones. Sexual.
It's not. It's overtones. It's tones.
Maybe. But there's something else to it, right? I didn't think it was just that. There's this weird lack of steadiness to him.
Interesting.
Right? And I feel like it is, like, the juxtaposition of kind of Richard. I'm like, interested to be like, does he ever describe the way Richard breathes? Was Terry, like, really into breath work or something? Like, I feel like when you do picture Richard, you picture, like, big breaths where he's either, like, fairly calm and sturdy or this sort of, like, angry, like,
panting. Yeah.
Richard but it's, like, strong and dark.
It's, like, animalistic. Yeah, he's very, like...
Darken has this, like...
quickened, sort of...
like, little, like, tittery, nervous, jittery breathing agree. And energy about him. And it's been mentioned before, but it's, like, really harped upon in this chapter.
Yeah, well...
And it does make you feel, like, gross. Like, you're just kind of like, oh, stop.
Especially...
relax.
Everything that he's doing, too. Isn't it... Well, this is interesting, too. When Richard does something like this, he's of one mind.
Yeah.
He is aligned. He's cutting someone in half. He's doing X, Y, and Z. He needs the power of the magic to do will.
Yeah.
Darken is always doing multi-layers.
I know.
Carl is like, oh, why are you smiling so big? He's thinking about killing the girl.
Right.
Then he starts lying to Carl, and he's doing both at the same. There's multi-channels going on. He's never in one spot, and he's trying to he's getting off on all of these different bad things at once, which I don't think can handle.
He's not in the moment.
He's not in the moment. He's in a lot of different moments. Basically,
Carl commits. He says yep, the ceremony, we should do it. How much Carl knows about the ceremony, what they've discussed
we don't know
these weeks, no idea. Darken Rahl's like, great, we'll do it tonight. He goes into, I guess, that little offshoot room where the guards are.
The forge, but yeah.
Sure, that they were cooking the gruel in originally.
Now they're cooking something else.
He goes in and he asks the guards if Demon's back. They're like, he's been back.
Demon's been back.
I don't know why that matters, but it's intentionally mentioned. They're kind of I guess it's supposed to be Darken Rahl's been so consumed with Carl that he didn't even know Demon came back.
Yeah. He came back weeks ago. Was that what they said?
They said days.
Oh, days. Okay.
Yeah, several days.
But that means Darken's been in and around this room for several days without asking anyone anything.
Yes.
So he's been working on Carl real hard.
Yeah, so he asks the guards to send Demon into him. And then Darken Rahl sets up the feeding horn and he goes into the room to get, quote, a crucible sat in the corner, an acrid smell rising from the dross. And I was like, I don't know what we're describing.
Oh.
What is a crucible?
A literal crucible.
I don't even know what that is.
Oh, okay. You never play with those in chemistry?
No.
So a crucible is like the play, but that's a metaphor.
Yeah.
A crucible is ceramic bowl that you burn with a Bunsen burner or whatever, and you reduce things down in it.
Wow, totally did not know that. I was always don't people always use it my crucible?
Yes, so the metaphor of a crucible is
you're getting burnt down to your
It's such
essence.
A hot and intense moment.
Yeah.
That everything is dissolved into its base states.
Fascinating.
And then you can filter out whatever came out. So that's the chemical.
Dead ass thought it was a metaphorical term.
Yeah, for a real object.
I didn't know it was real.
Well, now it's so real, and it's literally so real. And I didn't even think of it metaphorically.
Yeah, right.
Huh.
No, it makes sense, right?
Well, I'll have to.
He's doing alchemy.
He's literally doing alchemy.
Yeah.
In Carl, which.
Okay.
Anyway, yeah.
Dross. Interesting word.
Dross is a mixture of metals and other stuff.
Oh, really?
I think so.
Dross.
I don't know why. It's a burnt down
Oh, it says something regarded as worthless rubbish. A mass of solid impurities floating on a molten metal or dispersed.
Yeah, that's how I've always understood Dross, as the flotsam on top of magma or whatever.
Wow. I don't know these words.
Well, I'm I don't know. Did I read Terminator fan fiction? No, I don't think so. So I don't know why I know Dross either. But
you think that's the only place you could learn was Terminator?
One of the only places for sure. Just before he goes in there, though, there's one thing I wanted to talk about. Because he whips Carl up and Carl starts pledging his allegiance, and Carl says, "My life is yours if you'll have it."
Okay, what does that mean?
And Darken Rahl says, "Yes, Carl, I will have it." There's a juxtaposition to Richard's famous line in Faith of the Fallen.
Oh my God, what?
Which is, "Your life is yours alone. Rise up and live it."
Oh, so true.
So clearly this is a metaphorical through line of Terry's, where bad people will take your life and do what they want with it.
That's true.
But Richard's whole guiding philosophy, and therefore Terry's, and therefore the books, is every individual is responsible for their own life.
So are we victim blaming Carl?
Not quite, but this is what can happen to you. Mm-hmm. And that might have some weird sort of, I don't know, implications about, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know why he's doing this to Carl in that way.
Well, I guess
just
because is what it is.
Innocence and innocent people can and will be taken advantage of.
Potentially, yeah, it's possible.
If you are not careful with them, and if they are not careful with their own life. So I just thought that was interesting, because clearly that line means a lot to him and has carried through till, I don't know, 5 books later. You know what I mean? That's a core philosophy. Do not give your life to others unless you're deadly sure that they have your best interest at heart, you know?
Yeah, I wonder if the deadly sure... Like, do you think he has that caveat?
I don't know.
Right?
Well, it's yours alone, so if you want to give it to someone else's, that's your choice, but there's the risk, obviously, there of, you know. Yeah.
All right, that is interesting.
I just thought it was... I read that line and I was like, wait, he says that again somewhere.
Never would have thought of that.
No, I don't even think you...
No, I know the quote.
Okay, all right.
Not because of the book, but no, I read the book, so I guess I saw it at some point. Yeah, that's
true. You did finish that one.
I finished it. Darken puts wooden handles on the crucible. So yeah, at this point I was kind of getting like, oh, it's a big pot of some kind.
Yes.
So he doesn't burn himself. It magically makes it weigh less. I just thought these were interesting details to include.
Yeah, I agree. Well, we haven't really seen Darken do any magic yet. So
maybe not.
It's like, what kind of powers does he have?
He has like cash powers.
Which is probably pretty powerful, and he doesn't ever show it.
That's what I mean.
Except when it's...
He's like, clearly he could do little... convenience magic.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, does Zed ever do that? I don't know. We haven't seen anybody be in the Midlands.
And I have a little addendum to that point when we get it later in.
Okay. He brings it out to Carl. The feeding horn is set up by Carl in the sand.
Yep.
Yeah, so here's where we start getting like the language of Darken Rahl being aroused is like constant.
This is just and this whole thing is sexual assault and murder of a child, so it's like,
right,
I
have so many thoughts.
He
like,
puts the feeding horn to his mouth.
The quotes, he strained to control the flush of arousal, which I think is interesting that he does clearly is like not okay with it. He doesn't like it in some way.
Maybe.
He does, but he doesn't. I'm just saying, there's something interesting.
Doesn't that fit?
Yeah, there's something interesting about, like, why is he trying to control it?
And maybe that is why we feel so uncomfortable.
Why?
Because there is Skeletor, he's bad, and he knows he's bad, and Darken Rahl thinks he's a good person.
He doesn't. I feel like he also knows he's a bad person. He just doesn't care that much, and he thinks it makes sense to do it. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like he tries to justify himself, and he does it. I don't know.
And maybe that juxtaposition is discomforting when he's doing really bad things.
Yeah. Rahl's eyes closed as he drew a sharp breath. Sweat beaded on his face, stuck his robes to his skin.
Yep.
Like, just like a lot of that where you're like, sounds like... Yeah, so like everything about this is sexual assault coded.
Yeah. Every single sentence.
Everything.
Yeah.
So first he starts chanting. My man's gonna chant now for like a few hours here on out. But he starts chanting the sacred incantations in the ancient language that is as vague as you could get.
So no actual
Okay.
description there at all.
World building, I don't know her.
I don't know her.
I know it's intentional. It's just funny because, like, I feel like most authors.
I don't know if it is. He never really world builds like that.
I know it's like as other authors, they'd be like chomping at the bit. Oh, we keep using that term. Anyway, I feel like other authors, they'd be dying to like be like, oh yeah, I can drop, and then they said the blank incantations in the language of blah blah blah, like so that you'd be like, what?
Yep.
Can't wait to find out what that is. Not here.
Not here. No.
Rahl's back arched as he felt power surging through his body, taking him with the hot promise.
Hot promise. Rahl is drawing sharp breaths. He comes up and his eyes are glazed over.
Wanton passion burning in them.
Yep. He shook as he chanted haunted whispers in the air.
And right as he's like going to do it, he gazed down at the boy. Carl, he said in a husky whisper. That's why I was like, oh no, stop it.
Yeah.
I love you. And then Carl says, I love you, Father Rahl. Rahl's eyes slid closed. Put your mouth over the horn, my boy, and hold tight. And yeah, this whole part's like disturbing even outside of the sexual imagery context.
There's nothing
it's
good
bad.
here. Yeah.
But like, know. So I'm like, okay, it's clearly like a metaphorical version of like grooming and sexually assaulting a child, right? Like the whole grooming metaphor of it is there.
It's also literal, but yeah, it's...
No, I know. Yeah. Of course, he's grooming him to become his little underworld horse. But meaning like that, like creating that space where you convince the child that you are better than the family, that they need to keep your secret. Like it's just all there.
100% grooming.
And I think that's, I don't know. I think it's disturbing, but if you can like handle going through it, it's also okay because it's obviously not being put in as good.
Terry's not defending this. No.
So like I think it's perfectly reasonable to explore those sorts of like concepts, right? Like I don't know. I hate when people are like, oh, an author shouldn't explore this because like everybody jumps to that like, oh, they're getting off on it. And people be saying that about the Morsith, and that one that one I might be on your side. But like I don't like when people are like reading overtly bad things by the bad man who's the villain and being like, he's getting off on that. I don't know that. That's ridiculous. I don't feel like he is.
This almost... I'm not saying anything about Terry himself, but he clearly, like, I feel like detests this.
Yeah, he either, like, we don't know Terry's life, we don't know Terry's family, we don't know many things.
Kind of, he hates this.
Yeah, which is totally valid. And it is kind of interesting in that you are, like, when you read it, you are like, yeah, that is exactly what you are doing as an adult.
Correct.
If you're grooming
Absolutely.
a child. You're like, yeah, you are doing something just this crazy.
So it is, it's whether or not it works within Darken as like a believable or even good villain, it's definitely like, this is described as deplorable.
Yeah, for sure.
Like
I don't think there's any...
No, there is no redemption. There's no... And like... And, well, we'll talk, but...
I don't know. But I don't, like, oh, whatever. It's fine. Yeah, it's interesting. What I also find interesting is... It's really weird to me, though, to have this whole relationship with Darken and Carl that is clearly intended to represent that sort of dynamic at play.
Yeah.
But then also have Demon there, who's just the guy who's doing it not metaphorically. That's weird. It's such a weird choice. Something about that feels so strange to me. From like a storytelling perspective. Yeah. It would be one thing if Demon wasn't involved and it was just like, oh, okay, he's using Darken Rahl to make this commentary on pedophiles or whatever. I'd be like, yeah, okay. But the fact that there's also then his friend...
A literal pedophile.
Who's I don't know. Something about that. I'm just like, wait, I'm ready to get on the metaphorical train with you. Yeah. And it feels like it almost like undercuts it by being like, oh, but also that guy's really doing it. I don't know. Something strange there.
I think the intent is to say that Demon is a sexual pedophile. Darken Rahl takes it a step further and is like aroused at the concept of just hurting like humiliation and domination and all this sort of stuff. Darken Rahl has this like almost like pure evil about it. He has distilled what Demon does to like its most, which is Crucible, but there's some sort of like mega evil that Darken Rahl touches.
I feel that, but I guess my personal belief is like I do be feeling like
that's the max.
Real pedophiles frequently. That is exactly the thing of it. Right? Like what you're describing. Like it almost feels weird to create a distinction of like, oh, well, he's like the sexual one. But it's no, because he knows. Because he, like when Darken's talking to Demon, about it originally. He is like, you like the power, you like this, you like when they're like scared and weak and all of those things.
Yes, correct. I think that he is a reflection.
Okay, wait.
Beyond.
No, it kind of makes sense. Yeah, he's like the... Oh my god, he's like a Jungian archetype of a pedophile.
Yes, correct. Yeah, that's what I think he was going for.
Oh my god.
It's like Demon's a literal pedophile.
He crucibled the concept of pedophilia down into Darken Rahl, and then it was like, if you just made it into like...
What is a pedophile at its core?
It's this.
And then gave it superpowers, it would be Darken Rahl.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's kind of what it is.
So...
Interesting.
What a
but
fun
it's interesting. What?
What a fun villain. Can't wait to explore that. The dark star of pedophilia. Like
Stop. I can't clip that. There's gonna be no clips for this episode.
Yeah, sorry guys. Go in blind. Go out blinder.
I'm gonna have to just go like Google Wizards First Rule memes and post them for content for this week,
of which
I've
there
got
will be
nothing.
4.
Listen, the fucking the Shinga that Carl turns into at the end of the chapter, my ass is like, first of all, a Terry created creature.
Cool.
But nice. I was like Googling to be like, I want fan art. Nothing. Not one piece of fucking fan art exists for this.
Well, do you know, this is the inverse of that. When I Google "Your life is your own," because I didn't know the full quote from Richard, Terry Goodkind is the first entry on Google. I'm like, no one else is saying that? "Your life is your own" is Terry Goodkind's? There's not like country songs that are saying that first?
Nope.
Like Shania Twain didn't steal that?
No.
Miley Cyrus, like no pop songs are like, "Your life is your own." Like, you know, like...
Oh my god.
There it is.
Wait, we can make a song.
This will go on the Richard talk.
Yeah, you would. Yeah, so true.
So
okay.
True. This is the content we were looking for.
So anyway,
so he pedophiles him to death.
He puts the thing in, and it says molten lead goes into Carl's throat, and I was like, is that like a metaphor or literally molten lead?
No, it's literally molten lead because you didn't know what a crucible is. That's what a crucible
or
dross,
holds. So.
Yeah. It's a literal thing. It's a metaphor for something grosser, but
obviously I know that. Oh my god, it is just pure.
Yeah, it's just pedophilia. It's ritualized pedophilia.
Yes.
For underworld powers.
Which is so interesting. It's almost like Darken Rahl isn't literally a pedophile, not because of any goodness. It's just because he's like, I found the worst
yes,
one.
No, correct.
I found the one that's beyond
He's making
that.
fun of Demon because he's like, you're giving into your base urges when you could be metallurging up to my like god status with your pedophilia.
I don't like that there's pedophilia magic in this world.
Well,
So bad.
So that was really bad, and now we go into the...
We're going into the
even
spell.
worse.
Well,
maybe, I don't know. Carl's dead immediately, so thank God.
No, he's right. That's what I'm saying.
The lead hit Carl, and his eyes popped open, and he died.
I mean, it's bad.
It's the best thing to happen to Carl in weeks.
True. So Darken Rahl goes to the next set of incantations, which are sending Carl's spirit to the underworld now. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yep.
We're getting like, this is cartoon villain shit. His hands extend upwards. Dark forms swirl around him. Yeah. Howls fill the air with the terror of their calls. I can picture it.
I can picture it too.
If it was an anime.
Yeah.
That'd be good. That part.
Would be, yeah.
The pedophilia takes away from it.
It does. But like Frazetta rotoscoping, sort of like...
That would be so crazy.
Like, wouldn't it be good? I feel like Kaylin and Richard walking through the woods would look great this way.
That is what I was picturing. The last episode where we were like, oh, sometimes we kind of picture it as anime.
Yeah.
And then we were like, I'm picturing something else, though. That's exactly what it was.
That's what books look like sometimes to you?
No, this one.
Oh, this one specifically?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever really thought of anything like that before. I don't know why this. It has that
painting quality.
It has, maybe that's what it is.
Many frames.
So Darken Rahl goes to the cold stone altar. He kneels in front of it. He stretches his arm across it. He puts his face on it, and he's doing more spells. These ones are linking Carl's spirit to him. I don't know. I just wrote exactly the steps because it's kind of interesting.
It's kind of interesting.
Okay. So then he's done with that, and then Demon walks in, and he's been watching, it seems like.
Yeah.
Which is kind of interesting. He's like watching the master at work.
Correct. Yeah. Damn.
Okay. Darken Rahl asks him to take Carl's body, clean it.
Oh, yeah. Keep going. Yeah.
And then crack his skull, but don't do anything else, right?
Yep.
Are you ready to say your thing, or should I keep going?
Keep going.
Okay. And while Demon's about to do this, Darken Rahl does a spell on Demon's head that he's like, this will protect you during the process. Yeah.
Because I assume that whole zone is fuckified right now. Like,
I'm not going in there.
No.
And
but Demon will.
Darken's like, wait for me to return just before dawn. No, I have thoughts.
Yeah. I bet you do. So Demon does it. No big deal.
It kind of is a little bit of a deal. He does seem like he doesn't want to, and he says, I hate this part.
No.
Yes.
He puts him up on the thing.
Yeah.
He washes him. He cracks his skull. He wipes his sword. And then he says, I hate this part. Not what he just did. He hates what's coming next.
Okay, but whatever. He hates some part of it.
Yeah, because that's the part. That part, cracking the kid's skull, washing him, doing whatever, that's what Demon does.
I don't know if that's accurate.
I think this is the boundary between Demon and Darken Rahl.
Well, it definitely is the boundary. I think there's a couple of things. Well, number one, my thought was actually maybe Darken Rahl literally needs a Demon because his power is coming so much from this dark pedophilia themed place that he almost like needs somebody who's like in the genre. You know what I'm saying?
Okay,
to like help.
Yeah.
Because it's kind of like trying to get somebody who's not like, who doesn't connect with that power theme.
Yeah.
That person couldn't maybe like get in there. I don't know. I thought of it because like the way he's like putting the spell on him, and you were like, oh, he has to like go in this dangerous zone of this action.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, maybe somebody who isn't in touch with that sort of
dark
magic.
Energy.
Yeah, exactly. Dark magic, dark energy would almost like die in the process. But Devin's close enough to it, despite not going all the way here, that he can exist in the spell.
I mean, that works metaphorically, and it also works literally, because like if you're not cool with that first part, you're probably not willing to do what needs to be done in there. You know what I mean?
I could see somebody being okay maybe with like, oh, crack his skull and put him on the altar, and not be okay with fucking children. I could see that guy existing, yeah. So I'm saying more from like a magic perspective.
Fair.
I think the like what?
Yeah, you're right. that yeah, there's
definitely a bunch of people.
There's a thick line between those two.
Yeah, someone exists who'd be like, I could do that and not that. I almost feel like he needs to be a pedophile
to be able to.
I think like that magic would just like
eat him up.
Exactly, it would eat him up. It doesn't eat him up. I think he's still kind of uncomfortable with it because it's like another level, but it doesn't eat him up because he's like in touch with that thing, right?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I buy that.
That's what I'm thinking. But it does create a weird dichotomy for me of like, no, I don't know. I guess it's like weird to create these levels because it feels like on some level it's like putting Demon in the better spot, and I don't want him there.
Well, but if we're accepting that Rahl is this darker archetype, then he is in the better spot.
No, he's not. But he's actually not, right? It just feels that way. Like if we think of it.
No, because a literal pedophile is still better than a man who would kill all life, right? On some level.
But I almost feel like that's not it feels, I don't know. It feels like the messaging to think of it getting ranked that way. But I think it's not, because it's sort of being like, no, Darken Rahl is just doing what he does. We just are actually seeing it.
I see.
It's not couched in anything.
So the alchemy and all that is metaphorical language for the emotional resonance of what a demon does.
Yeah, exactly. Right?
I like that.
But I think but like what's weird about it is that like that getting there requires so much thought. Mm-hmm. And I don't think the average reader will. The average reader is just going to kind of have this uncomfortable sensation of, I guess demon's not as bad. Right? And like that's kind of weird. I don't think that's what he meant. I'm just saying it kind of creates that instinctually. That's like kind of what how your brain's like ranking it or something.
I did that, so yeah.
Right, but then like when you really get into the metaphor aspect of it, if you think of it that way, I think it is actually being like, no, Demon's doing the exact same thing. Okay. Darken's just actually showing you what the fuck he's doing over there.
And then he would hate that part.
Why?
Because Demon is in it just up until the part that he is satisfied and doesn't want to reflect any further past that.
That's true.
But the effects of what you just did are this. You're sending a soul to hell. You're binding yourself forever with that soul.
That's true. And it's true. You did.
And pedophiles don't want to be thinking about the effects of their actions.
So hard on this child that like you have...
Yeah, whether or not you kill him. If you kill him, yeah. But if you don't, yeah, absolutely. They're bound to you in this way now.
In this, like, bad way.
Fucking action that you decided to take and that you don't want to think about. Go fuck yourself, Demon. Right?
That's true.
Right?
Yeah,
and he hates, true. Oh, I hate this part.
True. Rahl's at the altar. Carl's on the altar. There's, like, a bonfire going on nearby, and Darken Rahl's like, the flames are going up. Okay, hell.
Yep.
I don't know.
I mean, yeah.
Also alchemy.
Yes.
And
correct. White sands, sigils, all that. Yep.
He brings the crucible over, puts it over the fire.
Yep.
He puts his knife on Carl, and then he gets naked. I'm sure it feeds into the sexual imagery that's going on. Also, probably
it does,
like
because he has an erect penis.
Right.
That feeds into the sexual energy of it all.
Yeah. And then we get this like description of Darken Rahl's body.
Yeah. We finally get to see the disfigurement.
Yeah, his skin was smooth and taut over his well-proportioned muscles, if you guys wanted to know. Except on his upper left thigh, across part of his hip and abdomen, and the left side of his penis. He has bad scarring, okay? And we find out that he got this. It was Zed's wizard fire that he sent over the boundary to kill Penis.
Hits Penis square on, but it has AoE splash damage.
Yeah.
Fucks up the left side of Rahl.
Yeah, which like, and you're like, at this point, is Darken Rahl a terrible person when he's like a little boy getting fire damaged? I don't know. Maybe not.
I think definitely, but whatever.
We don't know that yet.
And it is interesting because that will be a theme now. A big theme with the intentionality magic. There are consequences for your actions that you take as a wizard, a seeker, whatever. You got to be cool with those.
Right.
And Zed's... I
don't think Zed gives a shit.
Zed doesn't give a shit. He's just like, yeah, little fucker's kid was right there. Damn.
I don't know how he feels, but
probably not exactly
at this
like
point,
that,
he probably doesn't care. But maybe at the time, he might have.
Yeah, but he, they also killed his wife and kid. So I think maybe a little bit, he was like, I wish I hit both of them. Darken's a piece of shit. So, he melted his dick a little bit and his hip and whatever else. Which, there's not a woman alive that would laugh in the face of a sadistical emperor who had scarring because of burns. There's not a woman alive that would cackle in his face out of like belittlement in that moment. No. Unless they were like, I want to die today.
I'm getting into really weird niche territory here, but it is funny because it really does remind me. Yeah, I would like to hear your thoughts. I think I know them already, but I'd like to hear them. Well, it's just funny because it's interesting because a lot of people don't talk about this. Terry's talking about it. I don't know. I've just spent way too much time on Reddit, incel Reddit,
a lot,
sex Reddit, way too much time reading about people's inner thoughts on these topics.
Monologues and all else.
I feel like it gave me interesting insight into people's minds. Granted, through the lens of specifically people who go on Reddit.
Yeah.
But this is like a weird thing that a lot of men, or the type of men who go on Reddit, not all of them, Avi, they write these posts that are like, women are constantly just being so mean to me. They're laughing at me. And I'm not saying no woman has ever been a bitch. I know that that's not true.
Obviously.
But like, I don't know. There's a really specific tone.
Yep.
Where they're very convinced.
Women are always making fun of me because I'm short. Women are always laughing at my tiny penis.
Yeah, you're like, I don't think that it's happening the way you think it's happening.
As often, as ubiquitously.
Yeah, and then there's also this like weird sexualized version of it that goes on as well.
Yeah.
That's like, I like eroticizing mean women. So now I have to create this like fictional fantasy reality in my head in which
all women are mean.
Women are just such like bitches. They just love making fun of little boys and
yep.
You know, and you're like,
yep.
This is not, I don't know anybody who's like this. Like not like
like that.
Yeah. So I do feel like Terry like kind of like knows what I'm talking about.
And speaking about our breathing techniques between Rahl and Richard, Rahl's got mad, nervous, jittery Reddit boy energy.
I know.
He's got this, like, fetishy, bad, like, creepzoid
Darken Rahl's
little nut factor about him.
Darken Rahl's little baby Reddit boy. Richard is, I guess, Chadley, lumber splitting TikToker.
Correct, yeah. Richard is magic mogging on
Keep going.
Rahl's beta underworld baby boy penis. Is that right? Did I say it right?
Richard is log maxing.
Fuck, he's log maxing. All right.
When Richard is log maxing and mogging Darken Rahl's feeding horn. I don't know. I can't come on. I can't land it.
What are the bad ones? What are
the bad ones?
Because like maxing and mogging, or like the chads do that. What do the betas do? Yeah. So Richard is log maxing and seeker chatting on Darken Rahl's feeding horn pilled Underworld celled.
Oh my god.
Right?
Yeah. I don't know, but I liked the log maxing because it like evokes dicks.
Fuck. It evokes dicks.
Richard is huge log maxing. Darkens. Like, why do I keep getting lost here? Richard.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah.
What?
Hit him with the cells. That's the good way to end it.
Richard is huge log maxing.
Correct.
On Darken Rahl's rose-celled. Rose-celled crypt. I don't know.
Dead dad pilled. Rose cell.
Dead dad pilled. But Richard's also dead dad pilled.
Richard's dead dad maxing.
Okay.
On. This is the only clips you can do. Yeah. Richard is truth mogging.
Ooh, yeah.
On Rahl's burn cell.
That's a good one.
Burn cell rose pilled Dahara.
Alright, we have to stop doing this.
I'm done. That's all I have.
Whew.
Yeah.
Wow.
Alright, so Zed nuked penis, just and then also burnt Darken. And then Darken's little licking tick comes from the pain of wizard fire and his...
Well, he was
shackled.
Yeah, he was like tied up by the healers who were like, you can't touch your burn, and he was burning for months.
Yeah.
Which is really bad.
Oh, it's
that is
super traumatic.
Trauma.
And you know what? I'd feel a lot worse if this news didn't come right on the heels of the ritualistic pedophilia and we didn't even get to the
Well, yeah, so we find out that's where the tick developed, and you are kind of like, well, I don't like that tick, it's gross, but you're kind of like,
and it is a tick. He describes it as like the energy got too much and he couldn't control it, so it's like this nervousness about him. It's this,
but you are kind of like, okay, well, this was pretty extreme circumstances, yeah, I feel a little bad in those, like if I could go back in time, little Darken, I feel a bit bad.
Sure.
He dwells on like how he wants to kill Zed, fair. Yeah. And then the segue out of this was that Darken Rahl puts thoughts of that time out of his mind. He was a man now. He was the master. I don't have much to say other than it's just like the theme of like
it's the theme, and it also
What?
Well, it ties into
I think it's interesting. He was a man now. I think Richard would stop there.
Yeah.
But like it's like his interpretation of owning manhood and adulthood and personal responsibility is to exert it on others.
Exactly.
And of course Richard also exerts his will on others frequently, but it's like the difference is it for a good reason or a bad reason? Is it for a selfless reason or a selfish reason?
Of course.
And obviously Darken, it's selfish.
This feels selfish, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
So we get to the gross part now.
Mm-hmm.
The extra gross part. So
this is the viscerally gross part.
Exactly.
The other one was the emotionally and spiritually gross.
Correct.
Now we're getting into like the base gross.
So there's an iron bowl of boiling water. Oh, I guess it's the Crucible, right? Which makes sense.
It's the Crucible, which also has the Shinga carving on it. So that's part of the ritual.
Right, makes sense.
Yeah.
So he takes out Carl's heart, his brain, and his testicles.
Cool.
Which are like, I was like, oh, chakras.
Very chakras.
Yeah,
very
like that's like energy centers.
Yeah, definitely.
But I was like, okay, with the like the crucibled pedophilia element of it,
yes,
is the heart, the brain,
torture,
and
the
sexual
torture.
Yeah, it's like you're
absolutely
removing those aspects of the child. You're fucking with them. Correct. You're ruining sex for them, not like permanently, obviously, potentially.
No, but you're invading it. You're definitely
exactly. You're
modeling
infecting their ability to grow into their sexuality of their own accord
without your influence.
Exactly.
You're inserting yourself.
Yeah, and then obviously
clearly
brain and heart. And heart. It's like that is exactly what you do.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't like this, but I like it in the sense that he's honoring what rituals are
right
in this way. Like, yeah, this is a dark ritual. There's nothing else to it. This is just a bad ritual, bad alchemy. This is dark magic.
It's all dark.
Like just dark black magic all the way through. Going to the underworld, fucking with souls, pedophilia. This is like, this is the
peak.
This is peak evil right now.
Pretty much. Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's obviously invoking powerful energy, but like who wants to fuck with that energy?
Yeah, for what great benefit?
It's that Darken just wants whatever Darken wants. Mm-hmm. And he wants the ability and power to say, if I want that, I can make the world do it.
Correct.
Right? Which not a reasonable want.
No.
Like, not reasonable.
Not at all.
So, like, I don't know. He keeps chanting at the altar. He's smearing blood on his chest. I'm just trying to get the visuals out to you people of where Darken's at right now. He goes to the sorcerer's stand where Carl had been buried, and he starts drawing intricate patterns, and he's doing it like all night. It actually had pretty good imagery of him being like a psycho and looking like a psycho,
sweating and just like trance-like and muttering and blah blah blah. But like everything has to be perfect, and it feels like this is taxing. Which like cool.
Yeah. And so like I think when I was complaining about the sand buried element, I was like, I know that it's going to be important because I know the sand is going to be a part of it and all that. But I still think it would have been more effective without that part. But I get like from this like visceral power magic logic, you're like, that makes sense.
100%.
So I get the visual of it.
I think it just literally, in his mind, the sand needed to be part of the spell. So there's no way around it, you know?
I don't know about that, but whatever. So then he puts all the organs in the bowl, he mashes them up, and then he
boils them, mashes them.
He takes out magic powders. Again, very vague, from his robe.
And I don't know why. Every time I read this, because I read it a couple of times, that line just annoyed me, because whenever fucking Terry just gets this pedantry about him, and it's like
Richard, let's be real.
He took... If the line said he added magic powders to the thing and mixed it up, I wouldn't have really questioned anything. But he specifically says he took the powdered vials of magic from the discarded robe on the floor. And it's like, I don't need to know where they came from. They could have been on a fucking stand next to
I don't know if I agree. I think I disagree.
I don't know.
I get what you're saying. And I think sometimes when he's doing that many, many times in a short span of time, it gets annoying. But this time I didn't care, because like honestly some part of me kind of did forget that he was naked, and then that reminded me.
Gotcha. Okay.
So and it's kind of like interesting to think of him like naked and like shuffling around in his little clothes on the ground like a a raccoon or something.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Okay. He stands in front of the altar. He casts more spells. He holds the bowl up in the air. And then when he was done with his incantation, he lowered the bowl and looked around at the Garden of Life, because he always liked to look upon beautiful things before he went to the Underworld. It's just like an interesting take.
Yeah. It's those moments where you're most like, yo, fuck this guy.
Sort of, yeah. Well, it's weird because I guess it's like, maybe like in some way you're like, oh, it's like kind of relatable. I don't know. But like that. Yeah. He has little bits of like normal impulses in him.
Yes. But that's what so incenses you, I think. As a normal person, you're like, yeah, you can look at beautiful things all you fucking want as long as you don't do pedophile magic. It's no one cares. But like, you're not allowed. It incenses me of like, stop. It's almost like if you're bad enough, I'm mad that you appreciate beautiful things.
I think that is the point. It's saying like I guess real cartoon villains, like if you go all the way in that direction, they hate beautiful things, right? They don't like them. They don't appreciate them. And it's something about it is disturbing to be like, oh, he still sees that. He still likes that. And he's
still that bad.
Yeah.
That fucks with me.
So then he has to eat the organ mush raw with his fingers, which I think is, again, see, that's exactly what I mean. It's like sort of like he's like this little like rodent running around being like,
it's not raw, it's boiled. So he did boil it.
It's boiled. And so
I don't know if that makes it better, but yeah, then we get this fun little bit that Darken Rahl's actually vegan.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like, oh. Are we condemning that? I don't know.
No, but I think it does tie into the beauty aspect. Like, he thinks he's an appreciator, and he thinks he's better than, and he doesn't
that is true.
Want to consume dirty, ugly animals.
Yes, that is
but he will use a child to go to the Underworld.
Right, which you're like, I think you'd be better off just like eating
meat and
beef
not
sometimes.
doing any of this. Yeah, I agree. So it feeds into his superiority thing, but one thing that I found interesting is he didn't like the taste. And he liked to think of it as a vegetable paste, which, like, fuck you. It is, like, you are the fucking worst human being alive.
So, like, because, like, how dandy of him or something. It's just, like, shut
but it's
the
also, like, no.
up.
Like we were saying, these are the chalk roll points that you're affecting with your fucking shit.
Eat it.
You don't care
taste
about,
it,
You
bitch.
don't care about it at all. He does taste it.
No, I know.
No, because that's important, too. I had another thing. He can magic this shit to taste like blueberry pie, and he doesn't.
That'll fuck up the spell.
Maybe it will.
I feel like he's not allowed to do that. It's cheating.
You think he would if he could?
Yeah, and he's trying to cheat by like pretending in his brain.
Yeah, and just like, the 2 fingers scoop
like that at
of
all.
like brain, heart, and testicle
It's
paste.
just like he hated the taste of meat, and I'm like, well, this isn't a great example. Like,
get this man a steak. What are you doing, bro? Yeah, it's because you only eat boy brain and testicle shit. Like, come on.
Like, this isn't.
You ever had a ribeye?
How do you know this isn't a good
Eat
representation?
Taste of meat.
Yeah.
Try not being a cannibal for 5 minutes.
Right.
To harden steer.
I thought that him thinking of it as vegetable paste, and he does successfully consume the whole thing.
He does.
Is like simultaneously showing like his willpower in some way, because you are like, even as somebody that eats meat, that's gross.
That's gross, yeah.
And then, but you're also like, it's like both willpower and a lack of willpower, because he can't just like be like, I'm doing the bad spell right now. I got to eat the bad thing. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, he could relish in it, but instead he's very like lukewarm about it.
Yeah. I know, he's
It's
not
the opposite of Hannibal.
Exactly. He's not a villain that's like, I'm evil. He does it a little bit, but then he also gets squeamish, and he's like, ugh.
Yes, and I think that is partially what's so detestable about him.
I think it's part of what creates that like nervous energy in him a lot, where he is like breathing shallow and shaking and going, because he's like, he has too many contradictory things going on at once.
Yes.
Sometimes. Yeah.
All the time.
Sometimes he seems kind of like
one track.
Yeah, like he like knows what he's after, but I don't know. He goes and he sits on the grass in front of the sand in his little meditation pose again, like he did when he was talking with Carl, and he's like all covered in blood. He looks crazy. In the secret agent language, he says, "Come to me, Carl." The imagery is kind of cool of the Shinga coming into the room and everything. There's a moment of dead silence and then a wailing roar, and the ground starts shaking. And from the center of the sand pit, so like, yeah, I get it. He was probably really attached to the sand pit imagery and all that, and it is cool. So that's why we probably went there.
I think so too.
Carl's spirit, which is now this underworld beast called a Shinga, is like transparent. It's like a ghost at first coming up out of the sand. And it's
spinning.
It's like
it's coming out as like it's unscrewed itself, which I thought was cool imagery.
Yeah, and then it's becoming more like corporate, solid as it's spinning about, and then it's like struggling to like get itself out of the sand, and then it kind of like rips out of it and leaves behind this like big dark underworld hole in the middle. I thought that was kind of neat.
It was sick. Yeah, the sand's falling into the void.
Yeah, and what this thing looks like, I did not think it was clear at all. I'm picturing like a Chinese dragon for some reason.
Yeah, I don't know why.
I guess it's the unscrewing, floatingness of it.
But it had strong, powerful hind legs.
Yeah, I guess I'm picturing like a scary...
Yeah, I don't know.
version of it or something, like a more beastly variation.
It's clearly on 4 legs, right? Like, if it has hind legs, it has 4 legs.
I'm picturing this thing long, but it doesn't actually say that.
I don't know. Well, he does stride along it and pats its neck and all that. Yeah, it's some sort of dragon, horse, ghost.
I don't know. It says its powerful hind legs pulled through at last as it reared with a wail. A hole opened, black as pitch. Sand around the edges fell away into the bottomless blackness. I thought that was cool. The Shinga floated above it. Piercing brown eyes looked down at Rahl. I don't, like, that didn't describe anything to me.
No, it described pieces of a thing, which...
So I can't really picture it.
Yeah.
And then... Yeah, what's very sad about it is that it immediately starts nuzzling Darken Rahl, and you want, like, your instinct is like, that's so cute. This big monster came out and starts like being a little like puppy with him, and then you're like, yeah, fuck you, because no, you shouldn't get that, obviously. But he fucked him up so bad
that he gets
it. So it's really sad that Carl is this scary but sweet little spirit now.
Yeah.
That's got to deal with this shit. And then Darken Rahl literally gets on his back.
And Yahoo Silvers into the underworld.
They go into the hole, into the underworld, and then Demon's like in the shadows, like, safe journey, my friend, safe journey.
Did Demon hate that Darken Rahl has to leave? Is that what he was saying? I hate this part.
No, I don't think so.
I don't think so either. I hate when don't you hate when your bro goes to the underworld?
Riding his Shinga.
I hate when my bro's riding his Shinga to the underworld. He's gonna be gone for like 2 weeks. I hate that.
Yes.
Rip. We wish.
Rip to our souls after this chapter.
That was a lot. Happy that Carl's out of that pit.
Yeah, honestly, same. I don't know if this is better or worse. Who knows? But
I don't know if Carl is forever maimed in the underworld. If being a Shinga's maybe a good thing. I don't know. I don't know anything about the underworld, and neither do sorceresses, right? Oh no, neither do wizards. They don't know anything about the underworld.
Correct.
Sorceresses might.
Who knows?
Court's out.
Yeah.
Power of the tooth or something. But...
Yeah, so that was, I think, like, the conversation was actually very interesting.
Yeah, I thought I was going to have either nothing to say. I'm happy we were able to joke a little bit. It wasn't total serious, but we had some good combos there.
It was more interesting than I thought when I really sat with it, but it's hard to sit with it, right? So
yeah.
I'm excited to not be dealing with this.
Yeah, bring me back to Shingletown, honestly. I want those mud people. I want the lackadaisical plains and I want some sloshing going on. No more of this.
No more.
Let your boy rest, as I say.
Yeah, so I hope that you guys got like something out of that. It wasn't too traumatizing.
Sorry if it was.
Yeah, that's not our fault.
No.
All right, well, I'm going to do my shout out.
Let's go.
Okay.
Let's go.
Another Instagram. I literally was like, I'm going to grab people from TikTok. And then I was like, no, because I have to do this person first. So, Natty J _ arts. Let me make sure that's your username. I'm pretty sure I'm right.
RT.
I'm right. NATYJ _ ARTS. You're the shout out for today.
Woo! Yeah.
Also, very early adopter of the podcast.
Facts.
Like maybe
Facts.
First 5 people probably.
Right there. Ride or die type.
Yeah, basically.
OG.
To engage. You've been incredibly supportive. You like everything. So nice. Also, shout out to all of your like creative endeavors. First of all, your life seems extremely exciting to me. You're always at these Renaissance fair festivals.
Killing it.
Looks amazing.
Showing up, having the best time.
Yeah.
I wish I had an ounce of your, I don't know, moxie.
I know.
Honestly, I'm just like, you look like you're living the best
literally.
life. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah,
like,
literally.
How did a person just go, you know what? All my dreams, I'm going for them.
The dancing.
I don't know.
We love it.
We love every bit of it.
It's really good. And it makes me think, Natty, you inspired this thought in me. I'm like, everybody who's into Terry, not everybody, but everyone who's into Terry that listens to us, that magical combination are... It's not that many people, but those of you...
That sliver. Yeah.
That little pie sliver who's here. Everybody's incredibly proactively creative. You know what I mean?
That's a damn fact. Yeah.
Like, I'm just amazed that I'm like, everyone, when I like look at your social media, you're all like doing shit. Everybody's like doing it.
Hiking, making, drawing,
right.
crafting, like it's just acting, singing.
Very,
like it's wild.
Exactly. Very talented. And then not only talented, but like you actively take the time to like do your arts and do your activities and put it out there. And I think that makes sense though, because Terry is a very action oriented, like that's a big part of the theme. But I feel like Natty J Arts is a great representation of that.
Your life is yours alone. Rise up and live it.
And she's doing it.
God damn.
Yeah. So shout out to her. Go follow the account. Let's all be friends.
Please.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Guys, another episode in the books, episode 17, right?
17.
Wow.
17.
We're cruising here. We're definitely halfway now.
I think so.
And we'll be back soon for even more seeking and confessing.
All right.
Well, love y'all.
Love you guys.
See you next time.
Bye.
Mwah, mwah, mwah. Peace.